War among the stars. The galaxy is not a kind place. Slow, gradual colonization of systems outside of Sol has been a slow and difficult venture. Danger has hardly covered the conditions that colonization entailed. The industrial cost was immense. The ship had to manage with whatever they had packed when they arrived over their chosen world, after a nerve-wracking journey with proto-FTL drives that were prone to malfunctions and dangerous anomalies. Some of these ships never arrived, instead disappearing somewhere into the great beyond, trapped in the reality between realities. The few ships that did arrive too late, or too early, are better left unmentioned. It took 300 years of determined sacrifice before humanity considered itself a proper, spacefaring civilization. A few dozen worlds and non-terrestrial settlements scattered across the vast dark expanse of space, as little more than tiny beacons of life, fragile, yet enduring. Humanity had always been a flawed creation, but none could doubt the veracity of how utterly enduring the human spirit was. Alien contact was made nearly 600 years after the first human extrasolar colony was established, and humanity shortly joined the galactic stage as an intermediate state. It was not long before we made enemies. The backwater we called home, space, was not to be isolated forever, and as we expanded, we inevitably brushed elbows with those who were not inclined to share their existence with anyone but themselves. At times, we were such a species, and we learned very quickly that the galaxy was as prone to warfare as humanity was. We were very good at it. Yet like those who fought in our ancient history, in the 3 Great World Wars, who awoke every day to new and wondrous horrors never seen before in warfare, we forged a shared bond of awed misery with our long-dead ancestors. Only the dead have seen the end of war, and humanity is very much alive. Welcome to the United Armed Forces of Earth. The system for this choose-your-own adventure is simple. Most sections will offer a set amount of points to spend, and you can choose whatever you like, so long as you can afford it and no prior restrictions have been applied. Age. Choose 1. Young. 15 to 18. Some may consider you to still be a child, but you know better than them. You know you are far superior to the brats still in school, and the soulless, soft and cryptic older folks who give fake smiles and lament on how they were meant to do so much more in life. Fortunately, you've taken the very first steps of adulthood, and have anywhere and everywhere to go. It's only up from here on out. What people call impressionable, you call optimistic. If you aren't older than 17, expect to spend a little time at a military academy first. Adult. 18 to 35. While still young, you are more or less in the prime of your life. Your body and mind can be finely tuned into anything you desire, thanks to pervasive medical technology, nutritional regimens, and exercise programs. Human lifespan has been effectively doubled, and middle age is still decades away. It is likely you may already have a job or career, perhaps even a family, or at the very least hopes and passions you wish to see realized. If you have the time, you can be anything. You are a perfect candidate for the United Forces. Older. 35 plus. The cut-off limit for joining the United Forces is 40, but plenty of already established career soldiers are over this age, having served for years already, and intending to do so for as long as they can. After all, it seems that everyone over 50 stands with the brass these days, and they make good pay and benefits. You'll likely land a comfortable position and only need to play the waiting game, before you also stride around the officers' club. They wouldn't dare put you out in the field like the kids for long, would they? Joining up. Service guarantees citizenship. Just kidding. You're human. You're already a citizen of the greatest state in the galaxy, whether you live on the street or dine with the planetary governor on the weekends. However, by circumstance or otherwise, you've been drawn towards the impressive gravitas the United Forces offers. Is it glory you seek? Wealth? Or do you find yourself at the end of your rope with nowhere else to go? The United Forces accepts all with open arms. Choose 1. Conscript. Life wasn't meant to go this way. You had so much planned, so much you wanted to see. School was going well, or went well, and you already had a job lined up. Then, one day, the letter came by mail. Congratulations! The United Forces has recognized your hard work. They loved your principled nature and your strive for success. You are exactly what they need. A bright individual who will undoubtedly bring pride to humanity, as the guardian between civilization and extinction. Must have picked, young or adult. Cannot choose personal perk, officer. Gain personal perk points, +2. Volunteer. The allure, or perhaps circumstance, pulled you right into the bosom of the military. Well over half of those who serve are volunteers from all walks of life, ready to give it their all. Your dignity remains intact, and you have the benefit of choosing a wide range of specialties to train with, given you meet the testing and requirements. You may even be able to make a full career out of this. Gain personal perk points, +1. Gain unit perk points, +1. Gain 1 free equipment of choice. Already in service. You know the game. You've been here a while already, thriving in ways you never knew you could, or barely hanging on, wondering when it will all finally be over. It seems every year a new front opens up. If you weren't already pounding dirt or wondering how an impromptu spacewalk feels like, you've been taking it easy, away from the worst of it. If you happen to be older, don't expect a lot of respect, unless you have something to show for it. Cannot have chosen. Young. Gain unit perk points, +2. Outlook on the United Forces. Regardless of how you ended up in the ranks, you still probably harbour some personal thoughts on the matter. Do you resent the Earth Federation for forcing you into the military? Or are you optimistic about your chances? Choose one. Your duty. It is the expectation that all patriots serve. We are beset on all sides by foes and uncertain allies. War wages across systems near and far, and if the Earth Federation is expected to survive this age of conflict, then all must serve to the best of their ability, regardless of circumstance or desire. Glory. There is nothing better than being a winner, and you're in the United Forces to win it all. You know the way all the chicks and dudes at the bar look at the alluring, tough soldiers who stop by from time to time. You'll be in the best shape of your life, and everyone will want a piece of you. You will become a hero, at any cost. No choice. You had absolutely no say in your service, and it is entirely involuntary or under duress. This means you've likely been conscripted, or have been imprisoned, but this is not always the case. You likely have mixed feelings on the United Forces, and you just want to make it out in one piece. Running away. There is someone or something in your past that is coming to get you, and you must escape it at any cost. It isn't uncommon for service members to be running from something. Poor family life, gang violence, maybe even another branch of government. Once you join up, none of that matters anymore. It's the perfect way to change your identity and start anew. Cautious. Servitude of any nature can be rough on the nerves. Being a soldier is not an easy job, and it is often very dangerous. You are around strangers, doing strange things, and you are very far from home. All you have to hold on to is hope. Hope that things will turn out well. Opportunity. It is the mark of cleverness to take advantage of your circumstances, regardless of what they may be. You can gain a lot from your time in the service. Connections, a reputation, a foot into the door to anywhere you go after you've served. It won't be easy, but you are determined to come away as either a better person or better off. Benefits. The pay isn't always great, but the benefits sure are. Veterans have arguably better rights than regular citizens, and you have access to full healthcare, retirement, pension and tax cuts. A life after the service will be a comfortable one. You won't have to work nearly as hard otherwise, and you may even come away with some nifty skills. More importantly, you are ready to gain the system entirely to your advantage. Malcontent. Every moment in uniform will be torture, and every officer is a bastard. The United Forces is for bootlickers and those without a choice, and you happen to fall into the latter category. You don't want to be here. You'd much rather live your life the way you want to, but for one reason or another, that isn't possible. You count the days until your contract is over with glee. Occupational specialty. The United Armed Forces of Earth is an expansive and some say bloated organization. There are countless tasks that need performing on and off the field, either in direct combat or in support. You realize you have several choice occupations that you can pick. Unlike many alien militaries that are typically homogeneous, the United Forces is unique as Earth was never really unified under one proper banner. The United Nations is an archaic institute that wields considerable central power, but the old and new power blocks remain, along with many semi-autonomous colonies owing some manner of allegiance to one block or the other. Training experience varies wildly across human space, even on the same planet. Choose one occupation. Ground Forces. Infantryman. Free, standard issue rifle. All that stands between you and the beyond is your rifle and your brothers and sisters in arms. You stand among the ranks of the Legion, filling the boots of a basic infantryman, meant to deal with anything and everything. Your work will vary depending on your theatre and the posting, and you may have a comfortable service or live out a new hell daily. Training. Fort Ashwood, Earth. The American League, having escaped the worst of the Third World War, but taking a constant significant beating from years of climate catastrophe, consistently churns out some of the most well-rounded ground forces of Earth. A bulging population in the billions spanning 2 continents, with access to every conceivable environment to train in, from the Arctic province of Yukon to the thicket of the gradual regrowth of the Amazon. Few soldiers leave Fort Ashwood as anything less than icons of excellence. Or so the Institute here says. Old Earth is tired, and there is a non-ending stream of recruits passing through Ashwood, with a broad sweep of the broom. Engineer. You have an aptitude for building things and destroying things. While in a basic sense you don't differ far too greatly from the general infantry, your comrades are instead sprinkled along the units of the United Forces as specialists for all manner of small things. Anti-armor warfare, sappers, area denial specialists, explosive ordnance disposal, and the like. Training. Forsyth Barracks, Britannia. Tradition has always been a long-standing source of pride for units throughout human history, but few have held on so tightly to theirs than the famed engineers of Britannia. One of the first extrasolar worlds colonized, Britannia was settled by a large group of Western Europeans who found their world as easily habitable, but needing large-scale geoengineering following the discovery of weak topsoils, common microquakes, and shifting rivers. Hostile but not particularly dangerous wildlife forced the emergence of armed engineers, where the line between civilian and military became extremely blurred. With a store of ancient experience from Earth, and new experiences on Britannia, the engineers trained here are capable of anything and everything. Free. Rocket launcher, or flamethrower, or ordnance detection device. Combat medic. Free. First aid kit. You are simultaneously every infantry's friend and worst enemy. If you aren't saving their lives in the field, you're busting their ass and cleaning their system out an hour before muster, after a rather fine pub crawl. On deployment, you keep your comrades alive after any manner of injury taken, and while you may see lots of sprained ankles and backs, you easily manage under the worst circumstances when dealing with near-fatal battlefield wounds. Many owe their lives to you. Training. New St. Mary's. Cavalry. Initially a sleepy and peaceful world, founded by a coalition of religious groups from Earth, Cavalry was soon overwhelmed by refugees and wounded from the system over during the first human Incarnati War. As the most civilized world in frontier space at the time, this was the only location the seriously wounded could manage to survive, and a thriving medical sector emerged almost overnight. The United Forces felt so highly of the Cavalry medical services that the medical department is now headquartered here, and medical professionals of the military have access to cutting-edge procedures, knowledge, and even more. New St. Mary's consistently produces high-grade emergency trauma experts. Sniper. Free. Spotter drone. Your patience and accurate precision at the shooting range caught the attention of advanced marksmen, and at their behest ushered you into the grueling sniper training to hone your aim into becoming one of the most lethal in the galaxy. Easily a step or two above even designated infantry marksmen, you can make long-range shots with a variety of projectile weapons while remaining unseen by the enemy. Generally operating in isolated spotter-sniper duos, you may find yourself working alongside frontline units, or performing two-man infiltration missions. Training. Shanzhou Base, Yamada. It was not long after the colonists had settled into Yamada that strange things began to occur. People would go missing from their habitations, construction equipment would turn on in the middle of the night, and a heightened sense of paranoia was reported when travelling or working near the vast rainforests of the Central Belt. Some suggested sapient alien life, others supernatural entities. To this day, none have figured out the cause of these events, but the Shanzhou Marksman School embraces these legends and trains their troops to be as silent and unseen as phantoms. From having to pass camouflage tests while wearing orange in the lush green jungle, to needing to pick out a corn-sized target on a rocky mountain face, Shanzhou graduates are at the top of their field and a welcome addition to any unit. Mobile Suit Operator. Free Grenade Launcher. Somewhere between an infantryman, tank driver and pilot sits a mobile team operator. Utilizing humanoid mechanized combat suits, mobile operators become avatars of destruction, enshrouded in heavily armored outfits, and utilizing personal firearms resembling automatic tank cannons to shock, overcome, and annihilate infantry and armored targets with full prejudice. While not as powerful as armored vehicles, mobile suits are far nimbler and excel in urban conflicts alongside infantry assaults. Training. The Graveyard, Balmorra. Of the many tragedies in human history, the death of Balmorra is lauded as one of the worst. A border skirmish with the militaristic Bartek Empire exploded into a full-fledged planetary invasion in the span of 2 months, when Bartek troops landed and conducted the wholesale slaughter of nearly 60 million human colonists, in which only 11 million survived. Long thought impractical by human engineers, the Bartek utilized deadly mobile suits that defeated human ground forces with great effect. The capture of a single suit soon revolutionized human mech technology, and the Mobile Corps was created, now headquartered in the dead urban sprawl of Balmorra, where mobile suits recreate the entire war over and over and over, with new twists by command, to ensure the training never goes stale. Armor Command. Free Submachine Gun. Proudly serving since 1916, Armor Command encompasses all light, medium and heavy independently acting armored vehicles, such as light assault vehicles and tanks of varying design. You've earned your place as a crew member on one such vehicle, such as driver, commander, gunner, or whatever position you train for. While some theorize that the Mobile Corps will replace Armor Command, the fact remains that armored vehicles remain irreplaceable in all theaters, serving in numerous capacities such as anti-air and tank hunting. Training. Argaea Planitia Proving Grounds, Mars. The terraforming of Mars is an eternal process that will never cease, as great facilities labour endlessly to ensure a constant safe atmospheric composition and pressure so that residents may leave their dome and subterranean cities with only a basic oxygen mask and dust goggles. Hypoxia only begins to settle in after 6 hours without a mask, making the planet the second most habitable in the solar system. Pollutants from excessive manufacturers, the largest on any human world, assist in this process, while also rolling out nearly 60% of all human military equipment. The vast canyons and plains of Mars allow for superb vehicular training regiments, and the Argaea Proving Grounds is known to train some of the hardiest armor divisions in home space. During the yearly Rust Battle, observers flock to see which crew out of hundreds reign victorious after one full week of mock battle. If you or your driver is a Martian, expect to get out of anything alive. Stormtrooper. Free extra stimulants. For some reason you have an attraction to abuse. You enjoy being abused by your trainers, your comrades and the enemy, so that one day you may return the favour tenfold. The Stormtroopers are among the surliest bunch in the United Forces, engaging in brutal close combat assaults, search and destroy missions and deep strike operations. You are Special Forces in all but name. Usually as heavily armoured and armed a human can be outside of a mobile suit, you are the heaviest sledgehammer in the inventory of the United Forces. Training. Zelanostrat, Earth. Somewhere on the border between the European Federation, the Levan Coalition, and the remains of the southern border of Mcgreevy, is an isolated United Forces combat facility that does not officially exist. With access to a diverse environment and war-torn terrain, Stormtroopers are almost entirely field-trained. Eating, sleeping, washing, fighting, almost all done entirely in the field under simulated assault by the worst Central Command has to offer. While it is forbidden for forces to train outside their designated region, it has long been rumoured that cadet forces have been further tested in actual localised engagements against state and non-state actors alike, given the high rate of cadet fatalities. Close to conscripts. Air and Space Forces. Flight Command. Free Emergency Kit. If it flies, and is smaller than a spaceship, it is under Flight Command's purview. From atmospheric fighter pilots to starfighter pilots, from dropship door gunners to weatherplane technicians, Flight Command offers a diverse selection of aerial jobs for the adrenaline junkie on the go. If you aren't enough of a hotshot to be a pilot, there is plenty of supportive work. Communicators, mechanics, and the like. Training. Icarus Aerial Base, Elysium. Elysium has a near-identical atmospheric composition and gravity to Earth, making it a logical location for in-atmosphere aerial training, as craft designs and specifications remain relatively unaltered from what is seen on Earth. Unfortunately, much of the landscape is shallow sea, and the few areas of solid land are either primarily sand or massive marsh grass patches, rendering most natives of Elysium focused on aerial pursuits as the land is less than suitable for pretty much everything. All pilots are required to be able to swim, the only airbase with such a requirement. Marine. Free Shotgun. Little separates you and an infantryman besides where you are stationed, on the ground or on a ship. Marines inhabit all manner of United Forces warships as garrisons to protect against borders, launch boarding actions, and swift ground-level deployments to assist in minor operations. Space stations are also common targets of Marines, as their training in tight conditions and close quarters engagements allows them to further excel. Hopefully you aren't claustrophobic. Training. Calypso Base, Ceres Station. Life in the asteroid belt of the Sol system was never easy. The low-intensity but drawn-out Belt War saw numerous ship-to-ship boarding actions and conflicts over barren, resource-rich asteroids by the corporate elites, mining conglomerates, and locals. Belters are a self-sufficient lot and excel in interior combat operations, that is, within enclosed spaces, and they won out against corporate pressure from Mars and Earth. If you want a Belter, expect a tough time at Calypso Base, for everything feels like it is in miniature. That doesn't include the brutal but sometimes good-natured banter Belters are known for, so once you conquer your claustrophobia, you can develop a rather thick skin. Rating. Free Standard Issue Pistol. Spaceships and warships are run by the common ratings, men and women who fill every conceivable niche aboard a vessel as the bulk of the crew. This is generally not glamorous work, but it is fulfilling, as anyone who has the blood of a sailor running through their veins will understand the alluring call of the Dark Void. Such positions include, but are not limited to, cooks, weapon operators, janitors, and damage control. Training. Apollo Naval Base, Luna. Earth's moon has always been a logical place for a naval base, given its protective stance over the homeworld and low gravity, making it easy to land and take off vehicles from the surface. While a singular civilian city occupies the moon, well over half the population is military and naval personnel, and alongside the defensive batteries sit shipyards, barracks, and training facilities. Training to fulfill a ratings role can be done anywhere, but the Apollo base is far more prestigious and superior, and training here might place you a step ahead of other ratings trained elsewhere. Special Reconnaissance. You wanted the best of both the Navy and the ground forces, and Special Recon happens to be it. This is a unique force dedicated to deep infiltration of enemy worlds to lay groundwork for invasions, bombardments, and military intelligence gathering. Special Recon are the most advanced pathfinders in the United Forces, and have a proud reputation as incredible survivalists and navigators. And while combat engagements are not their priority, they have been known to carry out missions on par with a number of Special Forces units in the Ground Forces inventory. Whereas Stormtroopers and mobile suits can utilize drop pods to land in the heat of battle, Special Recon utilizes stealth pods that are smaller and less flashy, allowing for covert atmospheric entry. Training. Pretoria Base, New Harmony. Few planets are as beautiful as New Harmony, a relatively dry world of warm savannas and steep with narrow rainforest bands and tiny cold forest poles. A model of a sub-Saharan climate before the African continent withered away under desertification. Fortunately, many surviving animal species from Earth have been found to thrive here, given the rich flora and sparse fauna. Pretoria Base was originally a standard garrison, until the unique pathfinding capabilities of the natives were recognized, demonstrating superb navigational skills and aptitude for working alongside animals. Some consider the special recon recruits here to be nothing more than glorified scouts, but none dare say it to their face. 3. Designated Marksman Rifle, or Advanced Optics. Rescue and Extraction Service. Deployed in small numbers across all theatres, the Res step into the absolute worst conditions to exfiltrate units, personnel and equipment, at risk of destruction or capture. The arrival of the Res typically indicates a losing battle, but the morale boost is significant when troops realize the likelihood of their escape increases significantly. Res troopers utilize dropships and mobile suits for rapid defensive action, and are typically the last to leave a combat zone they are deployed in. This occupation is considered one of the few parallels to the Stormtroopers, for while their training is not as brutal, they often see engagements just as bad, and come out with their heads up. Unfortunately, the casualty to unit ratio is very high, and the Res is built on the concept of sacrifice. Training. Outer Zanzibar. Harvest. Harvest is one of the free breadbasket worlds. It is an agricultural world with large tracts of arable land and numerous glacially fed rivers. The hydrosphere is prone to long-term monsoons that cause significant flooding in many inhabited regions on Harvest, leading to a drive towards protected cities. Until this plan is finished, large-scale rescue operations are a seasonal occurrence on Harvest. Questions have been raised if this was the best place to situate the Res headquarters, but the ability to utilize recruits in real time and time-sensitive rescue operations is undeniably helpful. 3. Light Machine Gun. Extravehicular Activity Combat Trooper. Like naval marines, EVA troopers are often found garrisoned on ships and stations, but take a more offensive role than their marine comrades. You have no fear of the Black Void and what it holds. Not only have you elected to spend your time treading it, but to also wage war in it. While not the Space Marines of popular imagination, the EVA battalions literally fulfill this role as they typically engage in offensive missions against enemy ships and space structures from the outside. While Marines typically board from special boarding craft, EVA troopers cut their way in, and often brush elbows with the Marines during these operations. A friendly rivalry has emerged between these two specialties, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. Training. Aurora Station. Few would expect some of the United Forces' most elite to emerge from a debaucherously sinful hole of vice known as Aurora Station, where only a bare minimum of law limits the unrestrained pleasure and money coursing through the station's many brothels, cyberdens and casinos. Many consider the Aurorans to be sleazy and lazy, but the EVA training course here is vigorous and leaves no room for failure. Even small mistakes are met with expulsion. Every detail matters when in open space, and even solo issues have caused cascade failures that have killed several fellow EVA troopers. Closed to conscripts. 3. Laser Pistol. Special Occupations. Hazardous Environment Operations. Those with an obsession for gas masks and sweat seem to find solace while working in this occupation, and many keep well clear of this odd bunch. HEV operators are specialists in chemical, biological, and nuclear conditions, as well as environments classed as extreme, and are trained in reducing these conditions to passable for non-protected personnel, as well as engaging in warfare in these environs. They are a small and close-knit group who do not receive very many volunteers, but those that do are welcomed with open arms into this brotherhood. HEV operatives are also garrisoned in strange, usually obscure locations. Training. Calhoun Freeman Lab, Earth. Located somewhere in the upper deserts of the Northern American League, this facility is the only location with certification to train HEV operatives. There is little wonder why. There is plentiful access to scorching deserts, toxic waste, and the scrap fields of old, now dead settlements, rife with heavy metals and chemical pollutants. Training here is deadly, and perhaps due to the typically peaceful work of these operatives, often very well supported by fellow personnel in social matters. For unknown reasons, HEV operatives are given the same security clearance as red-level intelligence operatives, and are sworn to secrecy. If anyone asks about interdimensional tunneling experiments, you are expected to firmly but politely deny these allegations. 3. Lucky charm. Commissar. Free, revolver or sword. Hailing from difficult times and an unpopular history, commissars are being reinstated selectively in certain theatres for the purpose of improving unit morale and carrying out military justice in the field as they see fit. Your scores in all fields of training were superb, and rest assured a quiet battle raged between Special Operations and the Commissariat over who would get you. The Commissariat won out, and you accepted their offer. You have the thankless task of judge, jury, and executioner, as well as performing in the capacity as a military policeman and infantry commander. You may be stationed on the ground or on ships with disciplinary problems. Expect to have little, if any, friends, and there have been a curious number of accidents involving commissars. Training. Salazar Institute for Law and Order, Renstadt. While not officially a military facility, the Salazar Institute is a renowned police academy and university specializing in legal studies. The Commissariat was allowed to establish a small headquarters on campus, near private lodging for recruits who attend both military classes and civilian classes in the wider university. Training is grueling, for prospective commissars are trained additionally as police officers, judges, and special law agents. The mental fortitude required to maintain impeccable grades and peak physical fitness is no small task. Military police. Free, truncheon. Following your basic training, you elected to join the ranks of the venerable military police, thanks to your strong sense of justice, or perhaps your sense of superiority and fetish for bossing people around. Your post may be in the combat zones, but you are rarely on the front line, if ever, for your job is to keep the troops in line, conducting investigations and maintaining general order in the ranks for on-duty and off-duty personnel, as well as organizing and providing security for all military installations. You might spend your weekends dragging drunks into the brig, or contemplating how life brought you to guarding a vacant hallway all day, every day. You wonder if they forgot about you. They tell you not to look behind the secret door because there are military secrets behind it, but in a moment of weakness you do. It's just paper clips and high visibility belts. Training. Saxon Station. Considered a junction facility, Saxon Station is the sole habitation of an otherwise uninhabitable system. Commercial transit is non-stop, and the docks are always busy with freighters moving through, including the typical military transports. Saxon Port Authority is as professional as they get, and the United Federation operates a garrison here to protect the station and train military police alongside their port tenders. Training here is fairly like other MB programs, but expect to become an expert at passing documents. Recruits are used to check trade writs, identification cards, and shipping manifests. Saxon Station graduates can read a business card from 20 meters away and issue 6 citations in less than a minute. Quartermaster. Free, hold out pistol. You've exchanged your rifle for a pen. While a critical job, it is entirely administrative, and few consider it a proper military assignment. You help organize and sort through military inventory, and ensure equipment is provided and moved as needed. You work with handling out uniforms and weapons, or may perform the most dangerous task of dealing with munition stores. Every unit is backed up by countless clerks scribbling away on reports and requisition forms. If the cigarette shipment is late, expect to get hate mail. Training. St. Leon Beach. Kopleski. You are ready for fun and sun, beach babes and strongmen, surfing and lunch in the sand. You didn't realize until you saw the planet from orbit that Kopleski is a cold, rainy mud ball. What you had mistook for a tropical beach was a few hundred miles of rocky grey sand coast, holding back a tumultuous sea of black water. The facility at St. Leon Beach was strategically selected to ensure no administrative trainees got too happy with their job, and some suggest this is where you go to become an emotionless drone, perfect for rubber stamping and filing paperwork long into the night. Most entertainment occurs indoors, and you find yourself playing Dungeons & Dragons 90th edition most nights, while the police deal with another missing person, sacrificed to the supposed squid god that lives in the sea. Special Agent. Well, you aren't a soldier at all. You were quietly removed from training, and no one even remembers you. Did you even exist in the first place? Records indicate no, and your commanders studiously deny a recruit by your name having ever been in their command. Thanks to your skills and appearance, the infinite expanse of the intelligence arm has plucked you from mediocrity to train you into a special agent, capable of covert activities, intelligence gathering, sabotage, assassination, and all other shady activities that would get you executed for even talking about. Sometimes they let you play up a visible role, so everyone can point at the creep whispering into the label. At other times you find yourself living a dual life and implanted somewhere to carry out whatever objectives you are given. Expect to lose your identity entirely. Body reconstruction can make you into anything they want you to be. Training. Redacted. New Beijing. Expunged. Free. Universal Translator. Or Commission Life. Personal perks. Everyone has a set of skills and traits that make them stand out from the others. In your case, you developed quite a few while in the military, or lucky enough to be born with them. Each positive perk costs 1 personal perk points. Special perks have varying cost. Each negative perk grants 1 point. You have 5 personal perk points in addition to any you may have started with. You may choose as many positive and negative perks you can afford. These can only be spent in this section. Positive perks. Sharp. You have an observant eye, and things that go over other heads is easily picked up by you. Whether these are concepts, field observations, or just simple intuition, you also seem to have an edge for picking up on opportunities and coming danger. Under the radar. You stay out of the spotlight, and fortunately Command seems to overlook you for others to pick on. Out of everyone, you've probably had latrine duty the least, and a few uniform indiscretions have been overlooked without much bark or bite. When your platoon got busted for sharing drugs, you managed to escape the eye of the military police. Jack of all trades. You're pretty handy. Most tasks you encounter you perform with notable satisfaction. While you only consider yourself to be an expert in 1 or 2 things, your skills in other fields are typically above basic level. Resilient. You are one tough bastard. Some punks jumped you in basic and got a few sneak hits in before you pummeled them. A bullet tore clean through your thigh once, but you kept moving. Pain doesn't seem to affect you as much as most, and while this can be detrimental at times, you're able to keep moving longer after taking a beating. Fast learner. You might not know a lot, but you will soon. You're quick to adapt to changing circumstances and can learn skills faster than others. While you might not have a lot of skills, you're strong in the few you do have. Marksman badge. Whatever weapon you use, you can hit your mark without breaking a sweat. Whether this is a personal weapon, vehicle mounted, or an emplacement, it doesn't matter. If it has a trigger, your payload always finds the target. Jury-rigged. Replacements are not always on time or possible, and you have mastered the art of battlefield repair. If something breaks, you can keep it working for as long as needed, until it can be replaced. This covers equipment and vehicles, but you've also picked up a knack for improvised weapons and tools. Brawler. You are your company's boxer. If the problem can be solved with fists, then you are the guy or gal to call. Unfortunately, this has also earned you a tough guy reputation, which others like to put to the test. The military police also keep an eye on you. Patient. They say war is long periods of boredom interrupted by intense moments of terror. During those long periods, you've been able to keep yourself in operable shape, body and mind prepared for anything. You can also keep yourself entertained, and you don't fall prey to the allure of bad ideas easily, such as locking the CEO in the toilet. Usually. Quick reflexes. Things usually happen fast, and you are right there with the flow, moving without falling behind. Dodging slow-moving projectiles, quick reloads, utilizing a control panel quickly, and jiggling a flight stick better than anyone else. Especially a good skill for those around vehicles. Natural leader. Whether you like it or not, people look up to you to lead them through tough times. In basic, you are often at the front of the formation, calling cadence and keeping everyone moving together. If someone fell behind, you help them effortlessly. People are inclined to listen to you. However, when things really get bad, people expect you to always know what to do. Friend of the machine. You have a natural relationship with machines and equipment. Few things seem to go wrong when you're operating something. Breakdowns are rare with you around. Support connections. You made friends with some good folks at the rear of the line, possibly even off-world, but when they see your name, they're always happy to lend a hand. Your mail always gets through, requisitions in your name are on time, and little infractions here and there are wiped away. Your requests for anything are more likely to be answered, if not at least heard. Fearless. You're brave. When something scary happens or the situation is intense, you're able to push through without slowing down. You may still feel fear, but it doesn't get to you as easily as it could, and you can hide your anxiety to keep the morale of your comrades up. Tough mind. The horrors of war do not have the same effect on you as it does on others. Your mind is strong against all displays of destruction and carnage. Whether these sights do not get an emotional response from you, or you suppress them easily, it simply is a fact. A few have called you heartless or even psychotic, but you know that isn't the case. Decorated. You've assembled an impressive display of ribbons, accolades, and accommodations, and you're often chosen to be the face and spokesperson of the unit. Your concerns are also more readily heard, and you can speak your mind more often without consequence. Negative perks. Remember, these provide +1 points. Lied about age. Despite pervasive data gathering, underage folks still happen to slip through and join up. While your patriotism is laudable, Command can't sanction it. If you are found out, expect a court-martial, dishonorable discharge, and criminal charges. Even if you are no longer underage, if they knew you were when you joined, there will be consequences. Old wounds. You've taken some hits throughout your service and the damage adds up. Aches and pains are a daily occurrence. It's nothing serious, but you are in pain from time to time. Bottom of the totem pole. You don't know why, but your name was on the shit list since day one. Every terrible task is yours to complete, and you've been saddled with some pretty awful stuff. Even your accomplishments are generally overlooked, and you have less ribbons on your chest than even the do-nothings. Stim addict. Combat stimulants are an unfortunate but necessary addition to the soldier's diet. The boost in performance can rocket you through anything before you crash and recover, and then back to the stims. For you, stims are necessary, regardless of circumstance. You inject, pop or huff whatever you can, just to keep moving. Mechanical pariah. If you break it, you buy it. And you've theoretically bought a lot of things. Weapon malfunctions, system breakdowns, and other anomalies are common when you're in charge of operation. A note in your file has obeyed you from being allowed to walk near magnetic landmines. Outcast. You've been shuffled from unit to unit when yours suffers catastrophic casualties, leaving you an outcast without a proper home. People shun you for this and even avoid you, considering you unlucky. Making friends is a slow process, and once you do, sometimes you're onto another unit again. Trouble. If spending more nights in the drunk pit than anyone else could be awarded with a medal, you'd have a dozen. You have a bad habit of running against the military police, and even if you aren't causing a ruckus, you usually get roped into the punishment. But maybe being a troublemaker is in your nature. Unquiet mind. The stress of it all is getting to you. What you have seen, what you have done, it hurts. I always feel the same way, but it's hard to find peace, even with professional help. Some look at you, nervously, wondering if you might snap. If only they knew how harmful those looks were. Easily bored. When you get bored, which is often, you are prone to making bad decisions. To rectify this, you are usually given arduous tasks that keep you constantly busy, so you have no time to think. Still, your attention strays often, and you find yourself focused on other things constantly. Afraid. At your core, you are a coward. It's not easy to always fault someone for this. Standing against some of the things out there on the field is enough to make the best of us quake, but for you, you always run or hide when the opportunity presents itself. You do everything possible to stay out of danger and not face your fears, and for you, there are many. Brainwashed. You bought the propaganda or were subjected to mental conditioning. Whatever your orders may be, you can't refuse them. You may even have a hand in some darker stuff, but you won't ever speak up about it without an exceptional reason. Try not to fight the conditioning. It's painful. Workhorse. There is no rest for the weary, and you are always weary. The most asinine and arduous tasks are given to you, not out of spite, but because you are just so damn good at what you do. You're too dependable. Everyone else always messes the job up, but not you. And Command knows that. Special perks. NCO. You are a non-commissioned officer, capable of certain specialized tasks and leadership positions. If you are just starting your career, you are most likely a corporal or sergeant at most, but longer-serving members may have the experience and grit to be higher-level sergeants. You are thoroughly immersed in the culture of the enlisted, for you have risen through the ranks, and people know you probably earned it. Officer. You stand among the ranks of the commissioned, higher-level leaders within the United Forces that are typically the ones making most of the decisions, from day-to-day actions to theatre-wide operations. While there are plenty of benefits, the responsibility is immense. If you choose this rank, you may be in any officer position of your unit, including being the commander. Token Collector. While not officially sanctioned by the United Forces, token collecting is battlefield looting for personal gain. Generally, this entails taking trophies from enemy dead, such as weapons, personal effects, or perhaps body parts. Some units outright condemn this with the highest punishment possible, while others have a tradition of collecting trophy items like skulls. Nepotism. You have family or friends in very high levels of command, and if you want them to, they can pull strings to keep you out of danger. They may even be able to grant you some favours, and if your score for officer school was just below what is required, a few grease palms later, you stand among the butter bars and gold braids. If someone is causing you some trouble, a carefully penned letter might see them transferred out. Enhanced body modifications. You have personally undergone significant body augmentation, such as replacing your limbs with superior mechanical pieces, organs with improved designs, and other various cybernetic implants, all sanctioned and paid for by the United Forces. Alien lovers. They say sailors have a sweetheart in every port, and that seems to be true for you even outside of home space. Your postings alongside aliens have given you an affinity for befriending and loving those of a different species, and you really have a lonely time in alien space. Ace. Your actions have brought you to stardom in the eyes of the public and the military, having 10 confirmed kills in your fieldcraft. This is a momentous achievement that makes you a celebrity. There will be lots of media attention and informal benefits. Requires armor or flight command. Precognition. There is an instinct within you that helps you pick the right thing to do at the exact moment it should happen. You usually have the feeling and compulsion lasts for a mere few seconds and then it is gone. That said, this has saved your life more times than you can count. You duck, move, and look at all the right times. Experimental personnel. These are the adventurous souls, or downtrodden, who are willing to risk life, limb, and sanity for extra pay and benefits to partake in military experiments. These can be harmless, from trying out new uniforms in the field, to trying drugs and witnessing new weapon usage. As expected, rates of cancer are relatively high for volunteers, but some believe the pain is worth the pay. Informant. You are a pay snitch. While not fully in the hands of intelligence, you receive a hefty bonus in your pay for reporting on the actions of your comrades and commanders. This is to help root out malcontents or illegal actions. If found out, well, don't let that happen. Convict. You've committed crimes against the state and have been allowed to serve a shortened sentence in the military for a clean record. Almost certainly you are in a penal legion, but this is not always the case. Expect shortened leave, constant inspections, less pay, and no room for misbehavior. Call of the Void. There is something out there, beyond the void, in the space between realities. We've always wondered what happened to ships lost in warp travel, but you think you understand why that is a bad question to ask. They weren't lost, they were taken. You know that one day, your ship will never reach its destination. You won't need eyes where you are going. Equipment and gear. It can be assumed that each specialty will grant you all the necessary uniforms, weapons, equipment, and gear that you will need to perform your job. These are additional items that you can pick to make your life a little easier, or to further specialize your role. Just be mindful of what you bring and how it might affect your job. Each item will only cost 1 point. You have 4 points to spend. Standard issue rifle. There are a variety of rifles issued by the United Forces Combined Military, but these are typically carbines or full rifles, with automatic and semi-automatic setting. All magazine sizes and calibers have been standardized. Flamethrower. While specialized occupations exist utilizing these weapons, you felt the need to procure one for self-defense. At least you can roast marshmallows at your leisure. Rocket launcher. This is a typical dummy-guided launcher system, useful for general circumstances requiring rocket explosives, effective against personnel, structures, and light vehicles. Designated marksman rifle. A high-caliber rifle capable of punching clean holes through most body armor. Faster rate of fire than typical snipers, but less range and accuracy. Shotgun. Perfect for a variety of situations. Shotguns have specialized shells that can drop most foes with ease. Close quarters operators often favor automatic shotguns for shredding walls and hostiles alike. Submachine gun. Generally seen in the hands of light personnel or as crew weapons, an SMG is excellent for personal defense for downed pilots or vehicle crews. Capable of expelling a considerable number of rounds with low recoil. Light machine gun. In many ways, this is simply a heavier standard issue rifle, often utilizing the same caliber but with exceptionally large magazines, drum, box, or extended magazines, meant to suppress enemies and lay down accurate, rapid fire. Grenade launcher. This device can fire a number of special projectiles other than grenades, such as flares, trackers, signalers, and other tube-loaded munitions. Standard issue pistol. This sidearm is considered the standard issue variant, a 10mm semi-automatic piece with low recoil, stopping accuracy, and fair stopping power, seen in nearly every unit and department. Revolver. Revolvers are an ancient weapon that are still seen today, usually in the hands of officers or show-offs. Still, the capability of a revolver cannot be doubted, for high-caliber rounds are welcomed anywhere. Hope you can handle the recoil. Hold-out pistol. A small pistol capable of being hidden from view easily, often underneath jackets, in boots, or obscured elsewhere. Popular among rear-line troops and special operatives wanting another weapon on their body. Laser pistol. Laser weaponry is common, though laser pistols are less so, for their battery are typically not large enough to provide the incredible power they are known for. This pistol has pinpoint accuracy and precision, at the trade-off of damage. Rest assured, an unarmed foe can still be dropped in one shot. Commission knife. Some suggest the design of knives in service are countless, and many troops commission specialty knives as graduation presents for themselves or friends. This is one such knife, made to your liking, or given to you by a comrade. Sword. Ceremonial pieces are common for dress uniforms, and real swords have a surprisingly niche role for some units, typically Marines and boarding crew that engage in very close quarters combat. This could be a solid blade, chainsword, or utilize laser power to slice with ease. Truncheon. Perhaps the most ancient of all weapons, a club. Few can complain about the brutal effectiveness of bludgeoning something to death with brute force, especially popular among the military police who put such devices to good use, giving a few choice hits to rowdy troops to keep them in line, or as a punishment. Emergency kit. Sometimes things go south, and when they do, it's best to have a bug-out kit with a stock of survival supplies to keep you alive in the worst circumstances. Most vehicle crews and pilots have some manner of kit created by crew members, full of rations, medical supplies, flares, ammunition, and the like. First aid kit. It's always good to have a small kit to heal light wounds when a medic isn't around. This isn't anything fancy, but can potentially save someone's life. 2 solid cans of biofoam are provided to fill nearly any wound with disinfecting, nutrient-rich coagulant that fills any wound and halts bleeding entirely. Advanced optics. Scopes and visual devices mounted to weaponry to enrich the shooting experience. These are often thermal trackers and night vision devices. Lucky charm. Many combat veterans have discovered a lucky charm at some point, such as the bullet that never killed them, or a shell casing, or perhaps a bottle cap, or token they keep with them. Provides peace of mind, or perhaps something more. Comfortable combat webbing. Uniforms and personal gear vary vastly, even in the same department, but this is a particularly comfortable, possibly tailored set. You perform your job in style and comfort. Spotter drone. This is a small little surveillance device, operable by any computer terminal, large or small. Silent and minuscule, these drones are employed by many combat troops to scout non-visible terrain and buildings. Extra stimulants. While stimulants are typically granted by the medical personnel of your unit, you've procured and saved up a large personal stash just for yourself, and maybe a few friends. Why wait for the ration stims when you can have some anytime you want? Universal Translator. These are buggy programs, but they manage well enough to get basic ideas across to alien races. While in most cases you may already be dealing with alien allies or civilians, you may also wish to say "I surrender" in the language of your foe. Just be sure you surrender to the right ones. Ordnance Detection Device. Another functional but occasionally buggy device, this is something like a Geiger counter but for bombs. It can detect mines and other planted explosive devices with up to a 69% efficiency rate. Don't always stake your life on it, since the engineers have the good tools, but it can serve in a pinch. Unit Traditions. Military forces have a long history of developing their own culture and characteristics over years of service, from something that unifies an entire army group down to the brotherly bonds of the squad level. These traditions can emerge for any number of reasons. Shared hardships, need to boost morale, perpetuated jokes, reputation and the like. Your unit is your family. What makes yours special? You have 2 points to spend. Positive traits cost 1 point, drawbacks grant 1 point. Choose as many as you can afford. Honor Guard. Your entire unit are the poster boys and girls of the United Forces. It isn't all just for show either. Your unit has impeccable discipline. Every media opportunity conceivable sees your unit dressed up in the best attire possible, and paraded around for maximum propaganda benefit. Expect to partake in every ceremony conveniently possible, and when High Command arrives to the field, you will be there to welcome them. Black Operations. Covert missions do not officially exist, and if someone thinks they caught wind of one, then there is an endless list of reasons why it was not the United Forces doing. Your unit is effectively special forces, considering the missions you are tasked with performing. Sensitive extractions, political assassinations, hunting down rogue units, and other sensitive matters are well within your unit's capabilities. Expect to work closely with the intelligence operatives, and more often than not, you act as their muscle. Blood Pact. No bond is stronger than that which is forged in battle. Your unit has an unbreakable bond with each other. Nothing comes between you and the safety of your comrades, not even the United Forces. When a member of your unit needs help, everyone is there to lend a hand, and when you are at your lowest, you are never alone. Every member of your unit is there to get you through it. Betrayal is quite simply not possible. Guerrilla Experts. Irregular warfare is the specialty of your unit. Wherever you are, expect to employ unconventional tactics, and you operate best behind enemy lines, causing all manner of havoc. Hit and run, sabotage, ambushes, and high unit mobility are stressed over more conventional tactics. Sure, you could win a fair fight, but where is the fun in that? Seasoned Veterans. Your unit has a low number of greenhorns, and just about every trooper and officer has seen combat at some point in their career. Nearly everyone is an experienced old hand who knows the tricks of the game. The field is your home, and long periods of R&R make you and your comrades anxious. Professionals. Experienced or not, your unit is professional entirely. Every task is met with the appropriate response, cohesion is always high, and command always favours a reliable unit. You are surrounded by a large number of specialists, and you may even be one yourself. Augmented. Over half of your unit is augmented in some way, either modified genetically before birth, or given a variety of cybernetic and mechanical implants. These are often non-standard modifications given their complexity, a massive civilian market, but your unit has full authorization from the United Forces, and access to specialty combat mods to improve your capability in the field. Many vehicle-oriented personnel have interfacing ports in their head or neck, allowing for a cognitive link-up with the system they are operating. Some craft mix so well with their pilots that they don't even need to move their hands on a control panel. Forlorn Hope. Your unit takes being first into the fight seriously, and whenever there is a breakthrough anywhere, expect to be at the tip of the spear. This counts for both large-scale operations and small engagements, such as breaching heavily defended positions, often without heavy support, and only with what is on hand. While casualties are high because of this, expect double benefits and pay. You deserve a good life for the likely short time you'll be here. Stand guard. When the retreat happens, your unit stays behind to hold the line against all odds until the other units have withdrawn. This is often holding defensive positions under extreme conditions, but also fighting a running retreat, never staying in one spot long enough as you harry the enemy to slow their advance. You've lost a lot of comrades, but this has all been done so others don't have to suffer this loss. Few units are so widely respected. Public Security Detachment. Estimates place the human population in the galaxy as being around 70 billion, with nearly 1/4 of that living on exhausted Earth. It goes without saying that there are some serious malcontents in the Earth Federation. Civil war is a fact of life in some places, and occasionally member nations of the UN get into a small spat over one thing or the other. When the public is at war with the state, your unit is called in to back up the police and keep a lid on things. Some have reservations about firing at citizens of your own country, and others revel in the violence. The jackboot is your spirit animal. Infamous. Many units and individuals earn reputations that are often generalized from their occupation. Pilots are hotshots, engineers are nerds, Marines dine on premium crayons. Your unit earned a reputation not from stereotype, but because you've done some crazy shit, and people look upon you with awe or fear. Maybe both. Taking out a Dracati main battle tank is already a challenge, but attaching loudspeakers to your tank while you're charged the fray to play space idle pop is the mark of some seriously deranged people. Watchmen. The United Forces and the civilian arm of the Earth Federation have very long, spindly, and disgusting fingers that find their way into everything. For reasons you cannot say, your unit has been entrusted to keep watch over special services and installations, ready to protect the personnel within, or liquidate them. People generally consider seeing hazardous environment operators as a bad sign. Your unit happens to be surrounded by them. You still wonder late at night why your unit was once issued salt and crucifixes. Intelligence gathering. Thievery is looked down upon, unless it goes into the pockets of the intelligence department. Your unit is known for having sticky fingers, and anything and anyone not nailed down really well generally disappears, and ends up in an unmarked warehouse for study. Spooks frequently consult with your officers, and your unit is on something of a perpetual scavenger hunt, looking for secret plans and alien porno holomags everywhere you go. Xenos friendly. Not all aliens are out to get us, fortunately. Some are damn cool, and have had our backs during some pretty tough moments. While many forces will at some point work alongside our alien allies, your unit is often sent to assist them in their problems. If you join the United Forces to travel, then landing with a unit that specializes in Xenos cooperation is the best place you can be. Expect to see all sorts of crazy stuff and fight wars for aliens for reasons you cannot comprehend. It's also the best way to bang an alien. AI Overwatch. Artificial intelligence has finally reached levels of near sentience, though you don't see any walking around. They prefer to stay in their computers and networks. Sometimes you even have to coax them out. Thankfully, they like to help their creators rather than assimilate them, and your unit has an AI assigned to work with you. Surveillance, intel, situation updates, they happen near instantaneously and reach everyone in your unit at the same time. Your AI is something of a protective parent and mascot. When you're alone at your post, they're always there to talk with you. Drawbacks. Remember, these grant 1 point back. War crimes. Your unit has had a hand in some despicable things. While messy and shady things happen constantly, the rules of engagement are often clear, and there are Earth and galactic treaties outlining proper behavior. Your unit doesn't care, or perhaps doesn't have the luxury to. You and your comrades have committed atrocities in the name of the Earth Federation. Out of revenge, boredom, psychosis, or under orders. Remember, just following orders isn't an excuse, so if you don't want to see a cell for the rest of your life, it's better to just keep quiet. The Fall Guys. When things go wrong, it's good to have someone to pin the blame to. Sadly, Command sees you as the perfect unit to blame for operational failures. There is no recognition for your work and expect plenty of remedial training, even when you or your unit doesn't need it. While this may keep you off the front line, no one wants to come near your unit in fear of getting caught up in the constant reprimands. Hated. Whether deserved or otherwise, the public sees your unit as the epitome of everything wrong with the United Forces. You are the face of the eternal war machine. Somehow, when on leave, people just seem to know what unit you belong to, and you may be denied service at plenty of establishments. Sometimes you have things thrown at you, and you and your comrades face harassment everywhere. Don't expect being a conscript to change this fact. Rogues. It's hard to deny the charm of a band of lovable rogues, except if it's your unit. You are the trash, punks, and troublemakers that are one step between professional soldiers and penal legionaries. Discipline is never at a nominal rate, and every other man is either lazy, a prankster, or caught up in some bad stuff. Even unwilling conscripts seem to put on a better show than your unit. Command isn't sure if they want to keep you all hidden away, or placed on the very front line to be exterminated. Rivalry. At some point in the history of your unit, you have made contact with the enemy, and that enemy is another unit of the United Forces. Bad blood exists between your unit and another, or possibly several, over wrongs committed back and forth over some long-forgotten manner, or possibly one very well remembered. It is your natural imperative to never work with your rival unit, and always give them a hard time. Brawls erupt whenever you are with them. This is a fairly common issue, but Command has trouble keeping up with the shifting relations between its own units. Brutal hazing. Joining your unit was a series of miseries and embarrassments. It's hard to understand why your own comrades feel the need to physically and mentally abuse prospective newbies, but it happens, and is worse than most other hazing rituals. You've been utterly demeaned as a human being, but you've also done the same thing to the next batch of recruits, once you're no longer green. It's a vicious cycle. Trench rats. The most oppressive battlefield conditions are never difficult to find, because it's usually wherever you and your unit are currently standing. Your unit is often at the worst place possible on the battlefield, or operating the most gruesome of theatres. You and your comrades are seen as cannon fodder, as expendable. Your cries for fair treatment go unheard, maybe even ignored. Breakdowns are common in your unit, and you wonder when you'll be next. Penal Legion. Your unit is partially or completely composed of criminals, either pulled from civilian prisons or the installations operated by the United Forces. You are officially expendable, and are almost only put into suicidal circumstances. Most penal legions end up wiped off the face of the galaxy from total unit losses. The bright side is, if you happen to survive long enough, your charges will be entirely erased, and you'll be discharged without issue to live a life far, far away from the United Forces peacefully. Refinery Patrol. The Earth Federation has an endless appetite for things that require factories, refineries, and all manner of industrial establishments to create, non-stop. It is costly to build these facilities on airless and lifeless barren rocks, and so some normally habitable planets must suffer to host these gargantuan polluters. The United Forces has chosen to rent your unit out to these companies to protect them from sabotage, environmentalists, and enemy forces who wish to strike our manufacturing capacity. Suit up and don't touch the water, or breathe the air. Tearing your suit could lead to a lifetime of illnesses. Oversight. Everyone has orders to follow. Even the fat cats at high command get told what to do and chewed out from time to time by the politicians, and even they have their own masters. Only the Chancellor of the Earth Federation is in charge of things, and some consider that to be a debatable statement. What sort of control is your unit under? Choose one. Direct command involvement. There is something about your unit that High Command likes. You and your comrades are in their pocket, and your commander, or you, get your orders directly from the top. The whispers of the politicians into the Era Command end up on paper in your hands the day after. Failure is not optional, because what your unit accomplishes reflects directly on command. If you make them look bad, they will ruin you and everyone around you. On the other hand, expect some pampering and first-class service. Command doesn't usually want ruffians around them. Divisional. This is the typical chain of command for most military units. There is a network and web of people giving orders to others. You aren't sure what the higher-ups are thinking, but it's your purpose to carry it out. Thinking isn't what you get paid for. Do as told, and all will be well. Unit Intuition. Your unit makes their own decisions. You might be pointed in the direction of the enemy, but that is about it. Regardless of your unit size, the decisions are made close to home, and you have permission for limited requisitions and transit as deemed necessary by your direct commander. These free companies, as they are sometimes referred to, are rather rare, but in large theatres they are more common. They do cause as much trouble as they solve, as having soldiers performing actions as they see fit can mess with other plans in place. The proclivity for criminal action is also higher, as unit oversight is limited, if even there at all. Missions. This is an optional section. You can create your own missions too. If you prefer that, you can skip this section to the next. The objective of defending or furthering the interests of the Earth Federation is an endless task. There are so many ongoing conflicts that even Command forgets about some from time to time, as does the public. Even if you don't have the support needed from above, you have it from those around you, and so long as you and your comrades stick together, you can get through anything in one piece. Select 3 applicable missions that you have or are participating in. These are simply provided examples. You may come up with your own, if you prefer. The Murder of Balmorra. Ground. You were there when it happened. The frantic cries of the tiny picket fleet in orbit being torn apart have been broadcasted over all frequencies, and the eventual silence on the radio was deafening. You were stationed in the Northern Hemisphere, and everyone watched as shooting stars rained down from the heavens, each one signifying the death of hundreds of sailors as their ships were annihilated. There was no time to understand, for the bombardments came next. Cyclonic slug rounds the size of buildings were launched against most major cities, tearing them asunder in apocalyptic fashion. The skies were black and red, and millions perished in less than 24 hours as earthquakes and fires ravaged the planet. It is uncertain why the Bartek landed troops, but they did, and the 2 months following their invasion were pure and utter hell. Every engagement was made as a sacrifice to get the survivors off-world. Frantic last stands were daily occurrences, and you somehow trudged through it all. Even if only one soul made it out on your watch, then that was another life saved. When the reinforcements arrived, the Bartek were caught unaware, believing Balmorra to be the actual homeworld of humanity. The slaughter was immense, and no mercy was given to the Bartek until every last one was dead. Balmorra is a graveyard now, but the hatred in your heart for these aliens is immense, and most veterans have been put on the front against this evil foe. You await, patiently but eagerly, the day the Bartek homeworld is right under your feet. Space. The comms array had always been glitching. Phantom pings, ships disappearing and reappearing, ghost calls. Typical for a frontier world, as large as Balmorra was shaping up to be. When the Helgen disappeared from the IFF reader while on patrol, no one was particularly concerned. These things happened. When the readouts indicated 97 vessels inbound to Balmorra, several laughed. It had to have been space debris. The first shots against the anchored fleet happened not long after, and the incoming fire was fiercely accurate. First went the cruisers, gone with their mooring station. The Salt carrier was gutted by a torpedo strike and it lost thruster power, and began to sink in orbit before it was trapped in a downward spiral. The rest of the vessels realized far too late what was happening, and your ship was amid a full-scale assault. The engagement lasted all of about an hour, but you still wonder if it had really gone that quickly. Your ship fought a running escape with several others, limping along on broken systems and life support. Half the vessel was venting into the void, and it was liable half the crew was dead. Only one surviving ship was FTL capable, and they made the jump away, leaving the rest of you behind to hide in system to stay alive, relying on hit-and-run tactics. There was little else you could do while Balmora burned. Rauva's offensive. Ground. The Rauvas were a conquest-oriented people, but honourable. War was almost a game to them. They demanded surrender of the 8th Quadrant worlds before they launched their attack, and soon humanity was embroiled in a full-scale multi-system front. 13 worlds were directly involved in the fighting, not all of them inhabited, and the frontline consisted of millions of troops engaging the enemy in all conditions imaginable. The engagements on Quixquartal were textbook operations, demonstrating the might of combined arms and maneuver warfare on the open plains and urban landscape. Rauva's soldiers were humanoid and made for some tough opponents, but they fought well and gave respect back. Prisoner exchanges were commonplace. Treatment of the civilian populace went as well as it could have. The tenacity of the Earth Federation was underestimated, and it was not long before it was our turn to invade their home space. You've been on more worlds than you could count, hopping from planet to planet, as humanity burns through the Rauva sector slowly. Many days are a stalemate, but victories outnumber the defeats. Space. The fleet actions against the Rauvas are regularly some of the largest seen in human history. Hundreds of ships on either side have made contact and engaged in full-scale fleet combat, reminiscent of the ancient battles on Earth's high seas. The lessons of the great battleships had not been well remembered, and over the first 3 years, some of the largest Federation ships had been sent into battle, never to return. Still, what they did to us, we did to them. The engagements grew longer and more distant, with a focus on light ships and starcraft fighting it out in the open space between the fleets. The days of broadsides were coming to an end, and you were present to witness this history. Duscrati Blues. Ground. Coalsteel was the name of a barren, lifeless rock on the edge of the galaxy, known only to miners for most of its existence. Humans and aliens alike managed a tough existence on this world, cracking the planet's crust of precious, rare ores. The discovery of Hyperion crystals drew the eye of the Earth Federation and the United Forces, and most were booted off-world. As it so happened, the Duscrati Techno-Union had the same idea, and a small war was evolving on the surface of Coalsteel, all over metals, ore, and valuable crystals. Articles have been drafted to prevent the war from spreading elsewhere. So far, this has been successful, but the conditions on Coalsteel are dire. An airless atmosphere has made warfare incredibly asymmetric, and most engagements are done between vehicles on the dusty barrens, while small-scale attacks occur on underground mining facilities. It is a war fought almost entirely by tanks. Space. This is a backwater conflict that the Navy often pretends isn't even happening. Most ships sent to handle the orbital combat are old, aging, and barely able to keep up with the heavily armoured Duscrati hulks. The engagements can be rather fierce as long-range fire is exchanged before boarders from either side make it to the enemy line. There are more marine detachments operating here than in any other combat zone for its size, and it has become somewhat of a training ground as of late. Ship-to-ship engagements are often so inconclusive that some fights have been done entirely by boarding actions. We've lost a few this way, but the Duscrati are physically weak and rely too much on technology. Their crew and marines stand little chance against us head-on. Of the unlucky starfighter pilots posted here, your time is spent fighting unmanned drones rather than enemy pilots. Scalcy Human War. Ground. Scalcy space is small, but occupies several human-habitable worlds that are bountiful in fauna and flora. Observers have considered the 6 core Scalcy worlds to be more than capable of housing a significant amount of the overpopulated residents of Earth, and so war was eventually declared. Few had thought the diminutive reptilian Scalcy, little more than tiny humanoid raptors without the aggressive tendencies, to put up so much of a fight. Sure, this was their home, but they were half the size of a human and weaker in practically all aspects. But what they lacked in offensive tactics were more than made up for on the defensive, and Scalcy fortifications are considered practically unbreakable by some. For 100 human lives lost, the Scalcy might take anywhere between 5 to 10 dead. As this is a highly visible conflict in the eyes of the galaxy, foreign observers are quick to point out any perceived crimes, and troops believe themselves to be held back in their potential to wage war. Order bombardments are entirely off the table, and the front line has been found to be a containment job, while infiltration and spec ops cause mayhem behind enemy lines, sometimes dropping directly into their cities. Victory is assured, but how long will it take? Space. Few theatres are as quiet as this one, and some consider this a posting for those the Navy can't stand. Scousy ships are small and lightly armoured, while on the ground they can dig in expertly. In space they have no such skill, and we had full control of their system in the void within the first year. Each Scousy world is almost entirely physically cut off from the next, and we do our best to limit communications. Intelligence operatives have been working around the clock to alter footage and communications to get some worlds to surrender under the guise that they were the last ones left. A posting here is mostly playing an armed courier for the ground forces and intel operatives. Liberation of Norheim. Ground. Many in the government and public would prefer if we did not entangle ourselves with foreign powers, but in this case we had little choice. A treaty for mutual defence had to be honoured when our allies, the Rajax, came under invasion by the Gorgon. Little could be spared, but we offered what we could to assist in retaking one of their major worlds. It was felt that a direct human front would be more beneficial than our units spread thin throughout Rajax space. Norheim was our target, and an assembly for a liberation effort was underway. The Gorgons are brutish and strong, but not too dull. They prepared well, and are awaiting our imminent counter-invasion. The landing will be brutal. Expect a fierce uphill battle across a freezing planet. Support will be available, but our forces are relatively small. Many feel this isn't our fight, though some are quick to point out our reliance on Rajak imports and the ethical standing of supporting our allies. Space. Plans were drafted to keep the 37th Fleet operating in an introductory role only, with limited expectation for standard space combat. Most of our vessels here are light, nimble craft, loaded with fast torpedoes to engage in hit-and-run tactics on the stretched Gorgon supply lines. Wolf packs of torpedo ships have been formed and given near free rein to harass Gorgon civilian and military vessels throughout their home space and Rajak space. Ship-to-starfighter kills are very high in this theatre, and some pilots are quick to rack up the large kills, though these are mostly cargo vessels and transports. The Gorgon are fair sailors but far too aggressive. Their flanks and rear are often unguarded. That said, don't get caught in their indictors. You'll likely be taken prisoner and worked to death on some mining world far, far from human space. People's Independence Front. Ground. The self-proclaimed freedom and equality movement by the People's Independence Front has caused no small headache across the worlds of the Semeta cluster. It has led to open rebellion on two separate worlds, Camden and Hero. Both are highly populated worlds, but two sides of the same coin. Camden, a largely agricultural world, and Hero, a world of dense urban complexes with a significant technology sector, hold a sizable grip on the regional economy. The political ramifications of a larger civil war grow higher by the day, as sides are drawn throughout human space, and even within the United Forces. A swift and decisive end is needed to this uprising, to prevent any more erupting, for now, across human space. Martial law has been declared globally on both of these worlds, while planetary police and defense forces are split between support of the rebels or the Earth Federation. Moderate-scale conflict mars both these worlds, and United Forces personnel have been thrown into the mix. In some cases, this has inflamed the situation, and in others, it has silenced all objection quickly. Terrorism is unfortunately rampant throughout this sector, and the Federation has been hemorrhaging troops in asymmetrical warfare against a generally hostile civilian population for nearly 3 years now. Intelligence operatives and agents have been running amok here. Space. The Navy has been operating in a supplementary role to the police forces of the Semeta cluster in an attempt to foster understanding and good blood. As the rebels possess no warships, contact has been limited to boarding actions of rebel ships, which have often been caught up in criminal activities with a variety of crime syndicates. Illegal drugs and organ harvesting operations are busted daily in orbit and on the trade lanes. On more serious matters, rebel fanatics have taken up suicide bombing actions on passenger ships, as well as on stations and against government ships, by ramming or by hiding nuclear weapons on board broken down ships. Trade persists at a molasses pace, as all ships must be personally checked before entering or leaving the system. Unlawful entry or exit is met with significant hostile force, leading to the few small ship-to-ship engagements of this ongoing conflict. Operation Orange. HEV, military police and watchman perk units only. Ground only. Ground. Contact was lost with the Imakawa Pacifica containment facility at 5:03 AM local time for 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Nearby residents within a 20-mile radius of the facility were inexplicably awoken from their beds at that time, while those already awake reported sudden minor to moderate delirium and tetanus, as well as strange behaviour from animals. Failsafe systems sought the immediate deployment of hazardous environment and watchman units to investigate, finding the facility on full lockdown. Surface personnel reported an outbreak of nausea, hallucinations and bleeding from the fingernails during the outage time, while all sublevels were immediately locked down from each other and to any system access. Response teams were tasked with investigating each of the 76 floors of the facility to terminate anomalous phenomenon. Note, personnel referring to phenomenon as entities will be censored, charged and imprisoned, recover sensitive information, and rescue or liquidate trapped staff members as deemed necessary. You were part of one of these response teams. The things you witnessed at Imakawa surpassed the expectations of the human mind. Bodies melted into walls, people calling for help on radios, only to not be where they say they were, and to be coming from staff verified as deceased. Anomalous phenomenon that mimicked human bodies. Seemingly bottomless puddles of ink that swallowed people whole. Time distortions of such severity that some response teams reported meeting clones of themselves in passing. Corpses returning to life, the souls within attached to the wrong body. A porcelain teacup was all that was discovered on the last floor of the facility, and it was cutted off without further word as the cleanup was concluded. All of this, naturally, were only hallucinations brought on by stress. That's what the report says. The report is never wrong. Still, you wonder to yourself why your reflection in mirrors sometimes blinks when you don't. Engagement at Tannhauser. Space only. Space. The human-Vaha war began over civilian clashes on trade lanes. It is unclear who was the aggressor first, but a series of escalations led to subsequent fleet actions by the Earth Federation and the Vaha collective guilds along several major intergalactic trade routes. By nature of these locations, others had voluntarily, or involuntarily, been involved in these scattered battles. The lonely Tannhauser Nebula was almost the location of the first battle of an intergalactic world war. Instead, it served as the last battle of the Human-Vaha War. The 19th and 72nd Human fleets were ambushed by a numerically superior and better armed Vaha war fleet in transit. Several foreign mercantile convoys were caught up in the opening engagement, prompting the arrival of smaller fleets from nearby states, until a near free-for-all battle broke out between 11 separate combating nations. You were present for all 62 hours of this shit show. While the battle is generally deemed inconclusive by all sides, it is undoubtedly a victory for both the Earth Federation and the Vaha, as both sides achieved an impromptu cessation of hostilities by circumstance of mutual economic destruction, by the long list of people angry with the two nations using trade lanes as battlefields. Tactful political maneuvers by both nations sought neither blaming the other, or attempting to force reparations when the galactic polities sought damage payments from both, and as neither wished to pay, a ceasefire turned into a wary alliance against the wider galaxy at large, one which did not have the desire to force a larger offensive war against two separate nations over reparations. Hunted. Ground only. Ground. Little is really known about the strange, elusive Yul Trek, known simply as the Carvers among humanity. They are a pallid, bipedal mollusk-like race, with beady black eyes and lamprey mouths. Near featureless, they are outwardly mute and show little comprehension of other aliens around them. The Carvers are rarely seen outside their scattered backwater empire because of this, and few willingly engage with the Carvers. But one thing is for certain. Their biomechanical insight is terrifyingly profound, and their soldiers and weapons of war are often melded into one single entity. This lesson was learned the hard way on Yelta Point, a cold mud bowl on the edge of the galactic rim. Human settlers discovered Carvers already inhabiting their world, and began a system of evicting them, until, seemingly overnight, a large portion of both Carver and human settlers disappeared. Security teams began engagements against these slow and passive Carvers to quickly overtake their silent towns. It was a simple operation until the biomachines appeared. Some were hulking biological monstrosities, with metal mixed into flesh and nigh indestructible, capable of overturning armoured carriers with their arms and smashing troops into paste. Others were nimble like jackals, who worked in packs and tore people from their homes or away from others at night, nipping at them with razor teeth. There was little strategy in the methods of the enemy, and defence was difficult to manage when monstrosities appeared without reason in and around every human settlement. Known to survivors as the Year Without Sleep, the remaining population groups banded together in singular compounds to protect against the machine creatures that stalked the now abandoned streets. When reinforcements arrived, a campaign was mounted to eradicate these biomachines. It was soon discovered the carvers had abandoned the world and left automated workshops dedicated to creating these monstrosities. Carver settlers and captured humans alike were broken and moulded into new creations made for one purpose: killing. None have had the appetite to press a war against these otherwise reserved and pacifist creatures. Cat and Mouse. Ground and Space. Earth is officially free of war. Widespread social upheaval, revolutions, and civil wars within the consolidated superstates are simply considered unrest events. The powers of Earth have never lost their appetite for infighting. Still, large-scale war between states, when not performed in proxy conflicts, often becomes a game of cat and mouse between special operatives, police forces, and infiltration teams. The corporate world is cutthroat, literally, and it is not uncommon for corporate warbands to engage with each other, daily, in some places in the open. Government agents wage a more discreet war behind the curtains, and disappearances are common. So are assassinations, sabotage, and state-sponsored terrorism. Gangs are brought out or manipulated to be foot soldiers for the remaining sub-governments of the world, and by factions within the United Nations. You happen to have had a hand in one or more of these clandestine operations. Snatch and kill teams are fiercely effective, and stormtroopers have been known to fill in the ranks of such teams. Corporate espionage in space has led to deadly chases throughout the solar system, with some going to terroristic lengths to stop their foe or prevent capture of company assets. Enlisted personnel have even seen limited engagements between member states over minor disagreements or accidental contacts. Scars. No one ever really leaves the same as they were at the start. Pain, both mental and physical, infests so many that it's a wonder anyone keeps moving, though a lucky few do manage to emerge from it all relatively unscathed. Or at least, at the very least, they pretend well enough. Help is out there if you need it. Never feel ashamed for that. Choose one, or roll a 1d6. There are 6 scars to pick. Select the corresponding scar with the number you roll. Addiction. You deal with your troubles by washing them away, temporarily. The moments when you are indulging in your chosen substance are some of your favourite, possibly even the best you've ever had in a long time. Not only does it keep you going, you feel alive too. This can be any manner of addictive substance: alcohol, drugs, combat stimulants, warm bodies, and the like. You may not even want help, but just know, there are those who wonder if you are choosing wisely. Minor injuries. All in all, you made it out well enough. Your injuries and troubles are moderate, if possibly even minor. Your wounds will heal, and any bad memories or feelings will, eventually, lose their edge over time. This ends up being the majority of those exiting or continuing service. Unscathed. Flip a coin. If you land on your selection, you may choose this perk. Otherwise you cannot. You have an extra toss if you have a rear or non-combat posting. You did it, somehow. Perhaps it was divine providence or just good luck. You made it through your service without taking any serious or even moderate wounds, and your mental state remains intact. Many do end up pulling this off, but plenty don't. Post-traumatic stress disorder. It is a terrible sickness, and you've caught it. No one knows who will get it. It may have slowly crept up on you, or it happened to you all at once. Your memories, your feelings, things aren't quite right. Sometimes you're afraid, other times you are angry. It affects everyone in different and personal ways. The United Forces offer nominal treatment to help. But is it enough? Warner-Ingalhoff syndrome. You may feel comfortable in your mind, but your body has taken a serious toll. This isn't from outright injury, but from gradual poisoning. The battlefield and some postings put many at risk for serious health complications due to exposure from heavy metals, chemicals, biological agents, and even radiation. This illness is an umbrella term encompassing many symptoms, but the most commonly seen are shakes, coughing, loss of taste, skin irritations, and irritable bowels. Medication and surgery can only help so much. Crippled. You've been injured so severely that no amount of augmentation will return you to your natural state. Likely you've lost not simply one limb, but several, as well as taken injuries that have damaged your internal organs so seriously that you're in constant pain. Replacement organs will keep you alive, but they don't always function to standard. There are numerous medical institutions made entirely to treat and rehabilitate wounded soldiers, so you can expect to be taken care of, and even return to your normal life as well as you can. You're just missing a lot of you. Final outcomes. Your service has come to an end, or perhaps not, and it's hard to say what the future will hold for you. Choose one. Disillusioned. You once thought the United Forces, even the entire Earth Federation, once stood for something great. It may not have been perfect, but there was a substance worth defending, worth standing up for. Humanity had come so far and had gone through so much. Why did it have to turn out this way? All you see now are lies and hypocrisy. The words of the government, of those meant to support you and everyone else, are hollow. The reasons for why you went through what you did are likely to have been made up or based on stretched truths. There are ways to fight back against this, and not every method is peaceful. Taken prisoner. The situation was grim. Some would call you a coward, but they don't know what it is like when it comes down to that final choice. You threw down your arms and allowed the enemy to take you prisoner. Not all do so, and some imprisonments are far worse than death, but your foe this day is humane. A funny thing, that is. You aren't certain how long you will be a prisoner, and you are far from home space, trapped with a group of broken but alive humans. Perhaps this was the peaceful respite you needed, though the option to escape, while a long shot, always remains. Peaceful retirement. Regardless as to how the state of your mind and body is, one thing is for certain. The worst of your troubles are over. You've made it, out with an honourable discharge and can now settle down. Veteran rights are extensive, and you can choose from any number of worlds and locations within availabilities. Even as war rages, the frontier is always expanding, and people with your skill set are always in demand. You've likely made friends along the way, and there are always fellow veterans to network with. With a little optimism, things won't be so bad. You're in it for life. Your contract was up again, and you renewed it. You always do. The United Forces is your life, and it always will be. Perhaps in the long-distant future you will leave it, one way or another, but that time has not come. You continue to live on the front, and with your comrades carrying out whatever task comes your way. You all rise through the ranks, and you have plenty of stories to share with the Greenhorns. In a way, it's like raising a family. Seeing them grow melts your heart, and seeing them go, well, you aren't sure if that pain will ever go away. Fallen. The meat grinder churns, and you were in it. You can't remember how it happened. Maybe it was a stray bullet. Maybe an airstrike. You could have been fighting for your life in hand-to-hand combat and succumbed to a stronger or luckier foe. Your fate was to end up on a casualty report. Another number making that great fatality number rise one digit higher. Still, things might not be so bad. You're still you, aren't you? Wherever you might be going. Hopefully it can't be any worse than it was. Defector. The lies of the Earth Federation were too much, or perhaps you decided to sell out and change sides. For whatever reason, you're no longer aligned with the Federation. Your allegiance belongs to a new overlord now. Are they an old foe? A long-time ally with hidden reasons for taking your loyalty? Or perhaps you signed up with any number of rogue troopers and resistance movements, dedicated to bringing the Earth Federation down for any number of reasons. Good luck. You'll need it. Take 1 extra point for use anywhere. If you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Take another point if you leave a build in the comment section below. Get 2 extra points if you post an HFY story. Gain 3 extra points if you're subscribed to me on Patreon.